So feeling some type of way. The bubble of atmosphere around the mostly flat, rocky, well, is flat and rocky the same thing? Say the flat rock surface of the asteroid. The bubble of atmosphere around the mostly flat rock surface of the asteroid was very thin. 2 armadas. Kept trying to put an N in there for some reason. 2 armadas built above the skies of very different worlds, hung poised in the void of space, prepared to blast each other into oblivion. Tom Duffy in the house. Thank you, sir. No more purple hair. No, I kind of have to angle my head, I guess, so that I get purple, some kind of purple glow on my head, I guess. Had to shave all that hair off so they could attach wires to my head and find no answers. Totally worth it, I guess. Now I need to grow my hair out to like a respectable length, and maybe I can get an office job then. Blast each other into oblivion. The pair of military leaders on that lonely rock sized each other up. Not for the first time. General Gordy Congress, mostly human, except for the trace DNA of various compatible alien species that made up the genome. Let's say, I'm going to change that to the verb instead of making a long aside. General Gordy Congress was mostly human except for the trace DNA of various compatible alien species that made up the genome of most Earthlings in the modern era. His features looked Roman and cut an imposing figure among his own kind. Other species, more hostile than the ones who commonly bred with humans in generations past, were less impressed. The Alvane order might be the least impressed with humans of all. Alvain, Lord Talith, towered over the general, with her many arms crossed and almost all her eyes focused down on him. Gordy admired her long blue legs. Knew those legs held a lot of power. She could probably kill him if she took a mind to. But they would return to their vessels before any killing began. It would be on a much larger scale than any hand-to-hand combat on a stray asteroid. Besides, if she moved too much, she'd fly right off into space. And would probably mummify. No, let's do something else. It would probably freeze dry. Into a mummy fairly quickly. That would certainly start this interstellar war faster than anything. Alright, I'm going to split a paragraph up here. It would be on a much larger scale. Alright, I'm going to do the besides as its own paragraph. What do you have to offer, Congress? She asked in the awkward way that human languages rolled off an Alvain multi-forked tongue. He found himself staring at her tongue for a long moment before he finally answered. You mean personally or diplomatically? as she stared blankly down at him. He thought his little joke might not have translated well. Then she rolled her eyes. He imagined all species of female had some version of that same gesture in response to the coy attempts of their males. At least he knew she understood the joke. You waste my time, Gordy. Are you in a hurry to be at war with us? The pressure is always there, whether I desire it or not. Is this meeting just a formality, or is there hope for peace? My people never tolerate mere formalities. We have better things to do with our time, as opposed to humans who spread through the cosmos like a plague virus. Very good. Either of those will do. My point is that unlike humans, we never negotiate in vain. I don't know if peace between our worlds is ever truly possible. But we can always avoid war for a moment longer. Always. She tilted her great head. The tentacles slid over to one shoulder, much like hair would. Are you asking a question or agreeing with me, General? I can't ever tell for sure with that little upturn inflection, your kind uses in place of a properly formed question. Doesn't matter. Tylith, I agree that we should put war off as long as possible. I never said I agreed. I merely said that it was possible. And what do we need to do to make that possibility a reality? Her many eyes narrowed. He wondered if that meant the same things with her species as it did with his. Finally, she said, I don't suppose you would consider vacating space and returning all, let's say, interstellar space. And returning all your people to your home world. And you acted like you didn't understand inflection, he said. No, I don't think I could sell that to the human race across the entire galaxy and beyond. A pity, she said. That might be enough to put off war forever. It would be a pity if I had to return to my world and never see you again. Is that cute, Gordy? Are you trying to be cute? Trying to figure out what that sound is. I think maybe it's a fan on my computer. I don't know. Guess that's a computer. Good Lord, sound like a drill. So if my computer dies right now and everything is lost forever, then it was nice talking to you guys. I have a couple other computers open, so it might be one of those. Hold on. think it's actually construction over at one of the other houses. It just sounds like it's in here. Is that cute, Gordy? Are you trying to be cute with me? Yeah, that's outside. Okay. I'm sorry if I seem like I'm going crazy because I'm tracking down noises. It's just, it sounds so much like a computer. No. Is that cute, Gordy? Are you trying to be cute with me? Trying. Is that another... No, not a question. I was... Alright, I don't know what I did there. Hold on, let me fix that. Alright, no, not a question. I was agreeing this time. So hard to tell. Why don't we just not go to war? Tyleth. Make it as simple as that. If it were that simple, Gordy, then we probably wouldn't be here. Now, all right. I can hear one of my sons knocking, so let me go check and see what he needs real quick. All right. My son thought he needed something, then decided he didn't after I went to all the trouble to get up. So that's the reality of having kids, I guess. All right. If it were that simple, Gordy, then we probably wouldn't be here now. Neither side wants to give up much, he said. And as you said, no matter what we do, war won't be put off forever. So let's just back into our territories again and put off war a little while. That will be hard to sell to my leadership, as you would say. How long does it take to move messages through the reaches of space? By the time they decide it's not enough, or will have been avoided. clever, human, cute even, but it also might work. It was a pleasure seeing you again for another successful negotiation. Tyleith smiled. At least he thought it was a smile. We should return to our ships. They will get nervous the longer we wait. I look forward to talking with you again sometime. She narrowed her eyes again. If we see each other again, it will probably be war. Well, seeing you will be the highlight of the eventual war for me. She rolled her many eyes again, and he laughed. War was avoided again that day. Scene break. All right. Okay. The sky over the disputed planet. The sky over the disputed planet was full of color. The Alvain had one name for it. The human colonists, beset by attacks, had a number for the world. They had not been allowed to settle in enough to give it a proper name. General Gordy Congress and Alvain, Lord Tyleith, stood near each other on the high rounded top of a weathered mountain above the purple grasses of the plains. It was bigger than the asteroid they last stood on together. It was bigger than the asteroid they had last stood on together, but not by much. Here we are again, Gordy said, trying to avoid war once more. This time on the surface instead of among the stars, she pointed out. Okay. Still feels just as dangerous, doesn't it? It is dangerous. The attacks both ways have created conflicts far beyond this isolated world. We both try to claim. It's not even that great of a world, is it? I wouldn't choose to live here, but colonists are a different sort of people. I've noticed the same with humans. If we can get the colonists on this world to stop fighting, do you think that might put off war for a while longer? Both species staying on the same planet can't work. I don't know. He said, last time we solved our differences on a small asteroid, surely an entire planet is big enough for a few scattered colonies. This world is slightly bigger than Earth. The gravity is making me a little tired. I know it is bigger than your home world, many worlds home now. We call many worlds home now. And I come from one with heavier gravity. Maybe you could show me sometime. I assume that is another of your jokes. Imagine the leadership allowing me to tour our worlds for a human. I can imagine it. We might call it a diplomatic mission. We might, but that won't solve things here. We could divide the world, and each set of colonists stay on their sides. Now I know you must be joking, Gordy. Can you imagine our people walking right up to a line and then refusing to cross over or fight? I can imagine a lot. We can make the line very thick. Like a forbidden zone of sorts. Leith seemed to be considering. He hoped she wasn't just translating his words in her head still. It would be better if you just left. Gordy laughed. Your side could do the same. We don't give up worlds easily. Not even ones so poor in resources. Really is an unremarkable planet, she said. It's lush and supports life, but no real mineral resources of any use off planet. Hardly worth all this trouble. Not even one so poor in resources. But to answer your inflected question, no, not even ones so poor in resources. So we create a line, and the colonists stay on their sides for now. That's madness, she said. No better than our pretending to agree to a truce with no terms back on that asteroid. My people sent me to negotiate again because they thought I did such a great job avoiding war before. She gave that same expression he thought of as a smile. My leadership did the same with me. So I call that an endorsement of our creative negotiations. We draw a line, and who knows, maybe this is the world where we learn to live together in peace. Her eyes, most of them anyway, seemed to drift up to the colored sky and the faint stars beyond. Colonists are so unpredictable, though. I'm not hopeful for this solution. Space is large, he said. Maybe by the time we've crossed and delivered our messages, it will be over. I'll go inform our colonists of the New Deal. I'll do my best to talk our side into it too. As they parted to their own shuttles, he called out, "Mention that tour of your homeworld too. Who knows? They might go for it." She rolled her eyes at him one more time, and he laughed. Alright, scene break, and one more beat in the story. I tend to stick to 3 beats in short stories as a general rule. It's not always the case, but I find it to be a pretty good pattern. Alright. Gas vented into space as the force fields gas vented into space as the force fields trying to contain the ruptures and hold the ship together. Gas vented into space as the force fields trying to contain the ruptures and hold the ship together flickered on the verge of failure. Say General Congress saw the next blasts coming in long before he could hear them. The ship was still turning on thrust, but not fast or sharp enough. He ran the length of the hallway, of the passage, and cut the corner close to dive down one that was still intact. As the blasts from Alvane cannons struck what remained of the hull on that side. Hey, good evening. Thanks for being here. As the blast from Alvane cannon struck what remained of the hull on that side, the vibrations through the metal and the atmosphere still trapped inside roared with deafening noise. The shields gave out, and Gordy Congress was sucked backward toward the emptiness of space as the Alvane cruiser moved closer in silence, he felt it wasn't empty enough out there for his liking. Before he could fly. I'm doing well, doing better. Thank you for asking. Obviously, I had to remove my hair for a couple procedures there, but I'm doing okay. Before he could fly off into that disputed space, which never seemed big enough for their two species, the force fields powered back up. I look younger. Oh, thank you. I don't feel like I've looked younger in years. That's funny though. When I grow my hair back a little more gray, it'll put the age back on. Thank you for saying so though. Before he could fly off into the disputed space, which never seemed big enough for their two species, the force fields powered back up, and he clung to the deck with just enough artificial gravity. I know that's not really a thing, probably if space became real, but this is a science fiction story, so I'm going to have some anyway. With just enough artificial gravity to hold him in place. It reminded him a little of his asteroid he'd shared with Tyleth. Unfortunately, she had been right about war being inevitable. He climbed to his feet and started up the passage again. Where was everyone? Was the bridge even intact? The engine room still had to be, if they had thrust. Without the bridge, command would be moved down there. So where did he need to go? He stopped short and turned to stare out the vast opening in the ship. The shields still flickered, and the air was growing mountaintop thin. New paragraph. All right, sorry. I don't know why I was debating so much on that, but that's where we'll go. The planet below one of the moons of a larger gas giant, actually, rolled slowly into view. Either the crew was trying to dive behind the planet, behind the moon, or the ship was in some sort of death spiral already. The Alvane cruiser had no problem keeping up and squared up on them broadside one more time. He waited for the cannon blasts to light up in silence as the energy crossed the vacuum. One more volley would surely do them in. Instead of running, he waited and watched for the end. Three more Alvane vessels rushed into the battle. It seemed pointless unless they all wanted to claim a piece of the victory. Gordy hoped that the battle was going better elsewhere in the system, but he wasn't sure how much it was going to matter. I wondered why elsewhere was spelled wrong. I have an extra vowel in there. But wasn't sure how much it was going to matter if war had really finally started between these two empires. Then billions upon billions let's go bigger. Trillions upon trillions of people across billions of worlds would die before it was over, no matter who won, no matter who claimed victory in the end. The larger of the new ships moved between the cannons and the damaged vessel. The others approached slowly. Gordy, all right, let's make this a new paragraph. Gordy lost sight of the attacking fleet as the moon filled the entire view. They were in a death spiral, he decided. Finally, he just sat down in the passage as the moon rotated out and the gas giant cast its brighter light down his hull. The ship creaked, popped, and leaked all around him, but he waited. Someone approached. Along the hall. How unfortunate that a crewman was about to see their general sitting in abject defeat. What a terrible way to end one's service. Figure drew closer from the faint light that still blinded Gordy. Shadow was too big for these human hallways. He barely had time to consider a boarding party before she knelt beside him and held his face in her large hands. No, in two of her large hands. Are you hurt, Gordy? He stared for a moment and then actually laughed. Are you here to finally take me on that tour? She didn't even do him the courtesy of rolling her eyes. We are evacuating the surviving crew of your ship. I'm not sure how many you lost, but we can figure that out once we have you all to safety. The war has started. Doesn't that make us your prisoners? All right. Hopefully just long enough to deliver you back to your own people. What about the rest? What about the rest of the battle across this system? Wasn't going well for you. That's the bad news, she said. Since we were mostly winning, I was able to tell my fleets to stop. I think we've halted hostilities for now. Then what? He asked. I'm not sure what we can salvage. Of peace. Returning the survivors should buy a little time. We can keep from shooting each other a while longer, then who knows? Space is large. We might just have time. It didn't work out for the colonists, Cordy said. No, not too well. Colonists are temperamental. Take me to your leader, Gordy said, as he struggled to his feet. Are you serious? You want to try to negotiate directly with leadership? I was just kidding. But maybe if we deliver the survivors and I tell how you stopped the battle before it was over, maybe me going to address your leadership directly might mean something. More than just a formality, right? Always, she said. We need to go. This ship is terribly damaged. He took a step, but then slumped. She caught him with several of her arms and lifted him as she ran bent over through the passage toward the docking ports her ships had used. It's good to see you again. I think I'm hearing a vacuum cleaner. It's good to see you again, she said. No, he said. Good things happen when you and I are together. I hope you are right, she said, as she hurried toward her ship.